Imagine waking up 170,000 years ago. No houses, no heaters, no windows, and definitely no fresh air button. You live in a cave. Outside, the wind is cold enough to terrify your 3 remaining hairs. Inside, you have fire. Warm, beautiful, life-saving fire. For 45 glorious seconds, everything feels perfect. Then your eyes begin to sting. A thin ribbon of smoke climbs upward and spreads across the ceiling. The gray layer grows thicker. Everyone starts coughing, and suddenly your comfortable home feels like a cooking pot. A child crawls toward the entrance. An older hunter stares at you, because building this fire was your idea. Now choose. Stay warm inside with the smoke, or step outside and freeze in the brutal wind. You test the outside air. One icy gust attacks your head and flattens all 3 hairs. You immediately return to the smoke. Not because it is safe. The wind simply made the decision easier. But ancient humans found a better answer. Moving the hearth only a few steps could transform the entire cave. This rocky coastline will one day become southeastern France. Right now, however, it belongs to wind, wild animals, and you. Far in the future, people will build Nice nearby. But today, there are no cafes, hotels, or overpriced souvenir shops. With freezing nights and dangerous animals outside, a dry cave isn't primitive housing. It is the finest property in the region. The stone walls block the wind. The roof keeps out rain, and nothing needs to be built before you move in. From the entrance, you can watch the coastline, follow migrating animals, and notice trouble long before it reaches your home. Inside, the cave becomes your bedroom, kitchen, workshop, and meeting place, all without a single wall separating any of them. It has natural walls, excellent security, and a coastal view. There's even no rent, which immediately makes it extremely attractive. The home appears perfect. Then a loose stone falls behind you, reminding everyone that the ceiling is still a mountain. Unfortunately, the entire home has only one opening. People, cold air, and smoke must all use the same narrow entrance. The cave looks completely still, but its air is constantly moving. Put the fire in correctly, and that invisible breath carries smoke toward you. Fire changes everything. It pushes darkness away, warms the cave, and makes the animals watching outside reconsider their evening plans. Before fire, sunset ends your working day. With fire, you can see your hands and continue doing things after dark. Food becomes warmer and easier to prepare. This is excellent news, especially when your previous dinner plan was simply chewing harder. People gather around one bright center. They make tools, share food, and communicate, instead of disappearing separately into the darkness. But fire never arrives alone. Every warm flame brings an unwanted guest that slowly climbs toward the ceiling. Smoke. Outdoors, wind carries smoke away. Inside a stone chamber, it strikes the roof, spreads sideways, and begins collecting above everyone. At first, the smoke looks harmless. It floats high above your head, so naturally you decide it is tomorrow's problem. Then the gray layer becomes thicker and lower. Your eyes water, your throat feels uncomfortable, and standing becomes a bad idea. You try waving the smoke away with a leaf. This works beautifully. For the smoke, it simply moves somewhere else. You need heat without filling the cave with smoke. So where should the fire go? The entrance seems obvious. Let's test it. You build the fire directly at the cave entrance. Smoke rises into the open air. For once, your plan appears brilliant. Unfortunately, the smoke isn't the only thing escaping. Most of the heat follows it outside, leaving everyone inside still cold. The entrance is also where the wind is strongest. One sudden gust can bend the flames and push smoke straight inside. The gust throws smoke and loose ash across your face. Your ventilation experiment has accidentally invented prehistoric makeup. At the entrance, the fire provides little warmth to the cave. It has become an expensive outdoor lamp made of branches. Fine. You drag the fire deeper into the cave, away from the wind. Surely the second attempt will work better. Now the flames are protected from the wind. More warmth remains inside, and the clan finally stops shivering. The cave becomes warmer. Unfortunately, so does the smoke, which rises and spreads across nearly the entire stone ceiling. Everyone crouches beneath the smoke. You remain standing confidently, until you notice you're the only face still inside it. Too close means no heat. Too deep means trapped smoke. Somewhere between these failures, the moving air hides a better answer. You don't know the words convection or air pressure. To be fair, nobody will invent those words for a very long time. But you have watched smoke every night. You know it climbs, bends with wind, and behaves differently throughout the cave. Cold, heavy air enters through the lower part of the cave opening and quietly travels inward along the stone floor. When that cold air reaches the fire, it becomes warmer, expands, and begins rising toward the cave's stone ceiling. The rising warm air carries smoke with it. Together, they reach the ceiling and begin traveling toward the entrance. The entrance becomes a two-way road. Clean, cold air enters below, while warm, smoky air escapes through the upper section. Between these currents forms an invisible boundary. Below it, the air may remain usable. Above it, smoke becomes much thicker. When you sit, your face remains below the smoke. When you stand, your head enters an entirely different atmosphere. This helps explain why cave life stayed close to the ground, sitting, resting, and shaping tools beneath the heavier smoke. Understanding the airflow still doesn't reveal the perfect hearth location. To find that, we must jump forward 170,000 years. Thousands of generations pass. The people leave. The final hearth grows cold, and layers of earth slowly bury everything they touched. Much later, researchers study Lazaret Cave and rebuild its ancient interior digitally, giving the forgotten home a second life. They map the entrance, floor, walls, and ceiling. Every curve matters because even a small difference can redirect moving smoke. Next, the cave floor is divided into small squares so the computer can compare conditions across every part of the living space. Researchers place 16 imaginary hearths throughout the model, near the entrance, through the center, and deep inside the cave. These fires never physically burn. Inside the simulation, however, each one produces virtual heat, airflow, and smoke for the computer to examine. The model tracks where smoke travels, where warmth reaches, and which areas remain comfortable enough for people to work or rest. Most positions create a trade-off. Clean areas may be too cold, while the warmest areas can collect far too much smoke. After testing every position, one small central region offers the best balance of warmth, cleaner air, and usable working space. The computer has found its preferred zone. But archaeologists already know where the real prehistoric hearth stood. Now compare them. The preferred region is surprisingly small, roughly 5 meters by 5 meters within a cave covering a much larger area. Place the hearth here, and people remain close enough to feel its heat without losing most of the usable floor. The smoke rises above the important activity areas and follows the cave's natural airflow toward the upper entrance. Now reveal the real archaeological hearth. Its remains lie inside one of the simulation's best-performing positions. The fire wasn't placed randomly. Ancient people selected an area where warmth, smoke, and working space reached an effective balance. They had no computers or measuring equipment, only observation, memory, repeated experiments, and probably an impressive amount of coughing. Perhaps the first fire was built near a wall. The cave became warm, but smoke quickly invaded the living area. The next evening, they moved it forward. The air improved, but the colder sleeping area made everyone reconsider that decision. So they adjusted again. A little left, slightly deeper, then forward, allowing the cave itself to judge each attempt. Eventually, the lesson became simple enough to remember and teach. Build the fire here, not there, here. Once the hearth is placed correctly, the cave changes. It is no longer one large, dark, and confusing chamber. Close to the light, people can clearly see their hands while shaping stone, repairing tools, and preparing equipment. Near the warmth, food can be prepared and shared without blocking the brighter space needed for careful tool-making. Farther from the flames, calmer areas with cleaner air give families a more comfortable place to sit and rest. Smokier sections may serve different purposes, keeping heavy smoke away from the cave's main working and resting areas. The hearth creates invisible rooms, one for working, one for food, one for resting, and another for unwanted material. There is no architect, no blueprint, and nobody demanding an open-concept kitchen. Yet the space is carefully organized. Archaeologists compare these predicted zones with stone fragments, animal remains, burned material, and other objects left across the floor. The patterns suggest these people weren't simply hiding inside a hole. They understood it as a structured living space. A home begins when people decide, we work here, rest there, and nobody moves the fire, especially you. It is tempting to call this instinct, but instinct cannot identify the best position inside one particular cave. This answer belongs to Lazaret Cave. Its entrance, ceiling, shape, surrounding wind, and changing seasonal conditions. Another cave may have a narrower entrance, a lower roof or airflow moving in a completely different direction. Someone must watch how smoke behaves, notice which areas remain comfortable, and recognize when a fire position fails. Then, someone must remember the successful location after the season changes and the group eventually returns. Most importantly, somebody must teach the next person before that person confidently repeats every previous mistake. No written instructions are necessary. The dark hearth stain quietly says, "Others built the fire here. Do the same." Hearths from several occupation layers appear within or close to the region identified as the most useful. Different groups arrive. Winters pass, animals migrate, and generations change. But the fire repeatedly returns to the same area. The people leave no books or blueprints. Instead, the cave remembers through the people who keep returning. Tonight, the fire finally burns in the right place. Warmth reaches the group, while smoke travels safely above them. You cannot explain pressure or convection. You have never heard the word ventilation, but you understand the solution. You know it works because people stay warm, continue working, and no longer need to escape the smoke. Far in the future, archaeologists find shaped stone, burned material, and a dark hearth stain remaining in the ground. These objects look simple, but intelligence did not begin with cities, written language, mathematics, or modern technology. Sometimes intelligence means watching carefully, testing a solution, remembering the result, and teaching it to somebody else. That solution remained visible long enough for a modern computer to recognize it roughly 170,000 years later. Of course, the next time campfire smoke follows your chair, your ancestors may still quietly judge you. Thanks for joining this journey. Follow the channel and join our tribe for another strange story from human history. Long before humans built chimneys, they learned where the smoke wanted to go. See you around the next campfire.